Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Seth. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. It's a little bit late at night, so I have to keep my voice down. A little bit of ASMR. I'm so sorry. But we have two new memorias for Heaven Burns Red. This is going to be my last video before I go on a little trip. So you won't be seeing me for a few days. But yeah, let's get talking about the new memorias, shall we? This banner is super odd. So we have one really good unit and one really bad unit. So it's a 50-50 if you do roll on this banner. But we are talking about idol Aoi Erika, who is a fire defender, and we are also talking about the idol Minase Ichigo, who is a fire attacker. So first we are talking about the idol Aoi Erika. Her EX skill is 11 SP. She gives an AoE ally debuff invulnerability and gives all fire allies besides herself plus 5 SP. She also gets an 8 SP AoE fire attack. If the enemy is weak to fire, it increases damage and applies large devastation rate. So Idol Aoi is a fire element SP battery that prevents debuffs from being applied. Not to be confused with cleansing debuffs, Aoi just makes it so that a debuff cannot be applied. If your ally is already afflicted with a debuff, it does not take it off. Unless the boss enemy you are facing has 3-turn debuffs that are being applied at a frequent rate, it is not worth running this type of memoria. The extra plus 5 SP to fire allies also does not make up for the lack of utility like buffs, debuffs, or healing, making this memoria incredibly niche. It's a real shame for how nice the outfit and the EX skill animation are. She also gets a Norma skill as well that's like really strange. It acts like a blaster skill that won't ever be used unless you're farming really low level dungeons or if you have a abundance of extra SP. However, one thing to note is that for score challenges, she can prevent certain grades, like, you know, every 5 turns your allies are unable to switch out for 1 turn. That's a debuff and it can actually prevent it from being applied. So if they hate that kind of specific, you know, score challenge, then you could use Idol Aoi for that. She also has a passive that gives plus 50% defense for 4 turns if your team has 3 or more fire element allies in it. Aoi is actually her own worst enemy, as her SS1 is just 5 times better than this one due to the fact that she can just negate any damage and focuses all debuffs to herself. And since she's invincible, all those stacked debuffs don't even matter unless it's poison, because poison kind of hurts. So overall, I'm slapping her into D tier. If you want SP for fire allies, Magical Girl Tama is right there. She can both heal and buff as well. So there's actually like almost zero reason to run Idol Aoi over her in any scenario, sadly. Yeah, I actually couldn't find a single scenario where I would choose Idol Aoi over other units. Like, because all she does is apply that debuff invulnerability and gives SP, she actually does nothing. Like, she's just a liability. She's just there to be there. Like, she actually doesn't provide any utility for your team. Next, we have the complete opposite. Idol Minase Ichigo, the fire attacker. Her EX skill costs 13 SP. She raises her own hit count, which is the large damage one, 3 times and does an AoE plus 50% HP effective fire attack. She will not be able to take action for 2 turns afterward, however. She also gets a normal skill that costs 8 SP. She raises her own skill damage by a large amount and raises own hit count, but this one is the small damage one 5 times. Idol Ichigo compared to Idol Aoi is a ridiculously powerful memoria. She can raise her own hit count by, you know, the large damage and does plus 50% HP with the drawback of just not being able to use any skill for 2 turns, which isn't that bad. You can just switch her out and set up again with your other memorias. She also gets a skill that is basically a slightly weaker Union EX skill, which means you don't have to run the Holy Messiah when you're using Ichigo. Now this opens up another slot for a debuffer or fire elemental support. SS1 Yotsuha is an amazing fire elemental crit buffer for Idol Ichigo as no buff overlaps with each other. and you can run her as a solo buffer, since Idol Ichigo can buff herself without union, and Yotsuha buffs fire skill damage, crit rate, and crit damage. Yotsuha also fulfills the requirement for Idol Ichigo's passive, which is a plus 30% fire skill damage boost for having 3 fire element allies in the team, and unlike Idol Aoi, this one is permanent for the whole battle. This is also not counted as a stackable buff, so it's just a nice 30% boost to help compensate for her low base damage. Idol Aoi or Magical Girl Tama can both provide SP for Ichigo to self-buff if you have no other option. The SP does get a little hefty on this one if you're planning on self-buffing a lot. Overall, I give her a A- tier. I think she is a very good Memoria with a couple drawbacks like the recoil and, you know, having to need fire elemental allies, at least 2 more. However, those are pretty minor. She also needs a bit of SP to self-buff, but running batteries aren't the best option most of the time, so that dings off a couple points, which is why she's not any higher than I believe she is. Overall, this banner, Idol Ichigo, is super good, but Idol Aoi is probably one of the worst practical memory. Like, I know there are some memorias that are actually way worse than Idol Aoi, but she's definitely not up there, not even close. She is definitely bottom of the barrel doo-doo. So yeah, but she's not terrible enough to warrant F tier. I think D tier, just because of how niche she is. She can be used in very specific scenarios, so she's not useless. F tier is for useless memorias. So yeah, if you want her for her outfit, go for it, man. Like, I'm not stopping you. I'm just telling you how good they are in actual combat, not how good they look, because if we're going off looks, both of them, double S tier for sure. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in around 6 days, and yeah, have a good one. Please leave a like, subscribe if you're new for more content after I come back from my little vacation. Yeah, bye bye.